Well, let's get to my pick. GE has finally spun off its health unit, creating the newly listed GE HealthCare on the Nasdaq, which began trading today. The parent GE will still have nearly a 20% stake in the spinoff. And while this isn't a new business line for GE, it does signal the appeal of an industry that accounts for nearly 20% of the country's GDP. Between the influx of tech and other consumer brands in recent years, everyone is wrangling for their piece of the $4 trillion pie. I feel like I talk about this all the time. While tracking tech and technology sector's attempts to infiltrate the space has been top of mind for investors. Brands like Best Buy, you see retail pharmacies, and others that you recognize, like, as you can see on your screen, Lyft, Uber, UPS, you wouldn't think has its own health unit. So increasingly, these companies are trying to find new avenues to capitalize on what is a sector that just won't quit. MedTech especially, which often covers devices, is an area of growth as more companies tinker with the idea of consumer-facing health devices. That came, of course, we saw during the pandemic, more remote monitoring, more wearables. And so these companies are really trying to get in on that space. Meanwhile, you've got legacy medtech sector, the medtech sector. Wow, I didn't realize I was going to have that tongue twister in there. Dominated by big pharma. Think of J&J and Medtronic and the like. That's going to be really interesting to watch because they have been watching consumer habits, and you've seen some of these big players spin out or not pay as much attention to consumer brands, but also, what consumers demand as patients, whether you're in the outpatient setting or where you're looking at remote monitoring, wearables, and the like. That's really going to drive the strategy of these companies, I think, in the coming years.
And a company some feel will be worth some $50 billion. This is going to be a huge spinoff. And really the story of GE moving forward is going to be one of the stories of the year, in particular the shedding of its power business. My eyes on GE Aerospace, the one that's worth the most money, somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 billion, they believe, spinning out more than $20 billion annually in revenue.